morning, sunshines. It's 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning and I'm up early so I can make a southern soul food feast for you guys. I'm making mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, smothered pork chops, catfish, red velvet cake, sweet tea. What did I forget? I don't even remember everything I'm making. But it always takes me a little bit longer to cook when I'm filming, so that's why I'm up this early. So if your heart so moves you to hit the subscribe button, then I would truly appreciate it. But other than that, I'm going to be moving fast. I'll show you guys each step of the way what I'm doing, and I'll leave a link to my recipes so that you can check it out and you can make it on your time. And that's it. It's time to put the bonnet on and go to work. So to get started, I have some chicken and I might want to make some buttermilk chicken, fried chicken. So I'm just going to add some salt, about a teaspoon paprika, and about a cup of buttermilk and a teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to give this a mix and set it in the fridge for a couple hours. Let's get started on our red velvet cake. We have 2 1/4 cups cake flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 2 teaspoons cocoa powder, and we sift. Have a stick of butter softened, 1 1/2 cup sugar, and stir. I'm going to add in an egg one at a time, just until it's combined. Now half my flour mixture, stir on low. Now my 1 cup of buttermilk. And the rest of my flour. I have 2 ounces of red food coloring. I'm going to give that a stir. And make sure all of your ingredients are at room temperature. It's very important. 1 teaspoon white distilled vinegar. And 1 teaspoon vanilla. That's the right consistency. So we're going to bake this for 20 to 30 minutes. We'll see at 350. Now let's get started with the frosting. 1 stick of butter, 1 package of cream cheese, and let's mix. I'm going to add a pound of confectioner's sugar, a cup at a time, and stir slowly. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla, pinch of salt, and stir on high. You see this luscious, thick frosting? In the meantime, I have a 1/2 cup chopped pecans, and I'm going to let this toast for a couple of minutes. And I have a pot of water boiling. I'm going to salt this generously to boil my macaroni. I have 4 cups, a little over 4 cups of mac, cooked till al dente, about 7 minutes. So I have a smoked turkey drumstick that I'm going to put in along with 2 boxes of broth. And I'm going to set this on medium-high heat while I clean my greens. Wash your collards out real good. And I'm going to wash this a second time too. So I'm just taking my greens, ripping it off the stems, and putting it in my bowl. So I'm going to take a bunch of leaves, roll it up, and cut it into strips. So my smoked turkey is boiling with my chicken broth. I'm going to add my greens in. And into this I'm going to add 2 teaspoons garlic powder, 1 teaspoon red pepper flake, pinch of baking soda, 2 tablespoons sugar, and 1 chopped onion. I'm going to pour some water in till it barely covers the greens. There we go. I'm going to stir this up, cover it and let it cook down for about an hour before I check on it again. Let's make a quick batch of sweet tea. I got 6 tea bags, and I'm gonna pour in, well, that just defeated the purpose. 2 cups of hot water, a pinch of baking soda, and I'm gonna cover this for 15 minutes. In the meantime, let's make our cornbread. So I have an 8-inch cast iron skillet. I'm going to put about a chunk of bacon grease. I keep my bacon grease in the freezer. And I'm going to put this in a 400 degrees oven to heat up. So I have 1 cup yellow cornmeal, a 1/4 cup flour, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1½ teaspoon baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon baking soda, and mix. Now I have a 1.5 cups buttermilk and an egg. I'm going to make a well and just beat the egg up a little and add some of my buttermilk. And you notice I'm not adding sugar because according to Southern folks, they don't add sugar in their cornbread. While we're waiting for the skillet to heat up, I'm going to fish out these tea bags. It's been 15 minutes. I'm not going to squeeze them. Add a cup of sugar. Stir. And then I'm going to add 6 cups of cold water to this and set it in the fridge. Grease is heated up. I'm just going to coat the pan and put this back in for 20 minutes or so. So I have 10 pork chops here. Right now I'm just going to, by eye and by my liking, season with salt, garlic powder, paprika, pepper, and some hot sauce. It's not going to make it spicy, it's just to add some flavor. And I'm going to flip this over and do the same thing. Mixing bowl, I added 2 cups flour. Into the flour, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons seasoning flour, 2 tablespoons garlic powder, 2 tablespoons onion powder, about a teaspoon cayenne. Mix it up. I'm going to take my pork chop, drop it in, dredge it, and then I'm going to place it on these racks. Okay, so let's set our macaroni and cheese up. I have 2 cups of evaporated milk. To that, I'm going to add 4 eggs and 2/3 cup sour cream. And mix. So I'm going to stir that into my macaroni. Now I'm going to add in 2 sticks of butter that I've cut into cubes. 1 pound of Velveeta I've cut into cubes. 1 pound sharp cheddar. A 1/3 pound Colby Jack cheese. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons sugar and 1 teaspoon black pepper. I'm going to pour in a 1/4 cup milk. And let's see if it's ready, the consistency I want it. I'm going to pour in a little bit more milk. Yep. So I'm going to pour this into my baking dish. What happened is I used a little bit more than 4 cups of macaroni. And I'm going to cover this with 1/3 pound of Colby Jack cheese. Bake this at 375 until brown. So I dropped 3 pork chops into my oil. It was at 350, a little over 350. So I'm going to let that fry for about 5-6 minutes just till it's crisp, because it's still going to cook in the gravy. In the meantime, I've put 1 stick of butter in a saucepan to melt so I can start on my candied yams. I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of brown sugar, 1.25 cups brown sugar, 2 teaspoons cinnamon, a teaspoon salt, half teaspoon nutmeg, half teaspoon ginger, quarter teaspoon cloves, and a tablespoon of vanilla. And I'm going to stir that up and I'm going to let that melt. Take this out, set it on the tray. I'm going to let my oil temperature go back up and fry another batch of these pork chops. So I have 4 or 5 sweet potatoes. It's about 2.5 pounds sliced up into 2-inch pieces, and I'm going to pour this sugar mixture over it. I'm going to stir it around and coat it. I'm going to put this in the oven with the mac and cheese, and I'm going to cover it and cook it for about 40 minutes. Then we'll check on it. Our greens have been cooking down. It's been cooking for what, 2 hours? And still let it simmer a little bit. And I have a stick and a half of butter that's been sputtering on here. I'm going to add 3/4 cup of the seasoning flour we had left over from the pork. As I add it in, I'm going to whisk. I have some hot water that's boiling. And I have some chicken stock over here that's heating up as well to help me with my gravy. Now it's much darker. I'm going to add in my 3 onions sliced and 1 green pepper. I needed a bigger pot, y'all. No way. What was I thinking? These pork chops can't fit in this pot. Let's check our sweet potatoes. So, they're going okay. We just gotta baste them the juice and let them cook some more. So I'm softening up my onions and bell pepper and my flour and fat. I have some chicken stock that's been heating up. I'm just gonna start pouring some in and stirring. You can see it's a nice and thick consistency. There's about 4 cups chicken broth. And you just heard my hot water click off as well. I'm gonna add some of that. So I tasted this, it had a good amount of salt, so I'm just going to add my pork chops at this point and let it simmer. Okay, let's get our catfish set up. So I got 3 eggs sitting right here. To it I'm going to add some hot sauce. And I got a Ziploc bag, 1.5 cups cornmeal, half cup flour, 1 teaspoon onion powder, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, half teaspoon cayenne, teaspoon salt, teaspoon paprika, teaspoon pepper, a teaspoon Old Bay, and a tablespoon lemon pepper. Seal it up, give it a shake. So it's real simple. I got a little over 2 pounds catfish. I'm gonna dip it in this egg mixture, drop it into the cornmeal flour mix, shake it, take it out, and lay it on my baking rack. And I'm just gonna repeat that. So my oil is at 360 or so. I'm going to drop a piece of catfish in. And I'm going to let this cook for about 2 minutes per side. Alright guys, this is the last thing. This is a little bit of flour left over from dredging the pork chops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add About 3/4 cup cornstarch. Mix it up. Dredging it in the flour. I let the chicken sit on the rack for a few minutes and then I fried it around 8 minutes per side. And then all that was left was to frost my cake and enjoy. So we have our collard greens. Have our red velvet cake that I'm not going to pick up. Candied yams. Cornbread, catfish. Back here we have our chicken. It's a little well done, but it'll still taste fine. Our sweet tea and our mac and cheese. So, oh, missed right in front of me, pork chops and gravy. First I'll try this sweet tea. Looks so refreshing. I really needed this. It's delicious. And the baking soda, the pinch of baking soda you put in this is so that the bitterness of the tea bag, you don't get all that bitterness. Now let's try our pork chops. Don't need a knife, it breaks apart. This is really good. When I made my gravy, I didn't put any more salt because I used chicken's broth and it already had enough salt. But some people might want to put some more spice, add some paprika to their gravy. Some people add soy sauce. You can, you know, make it as you see fit. I'm gonna add some greens. I'm gonna try out the greens. And some candied yams. Okay. Added a little bit of salt to my greens after it was done and I tasted it. Just a little. Have some. It's nice and tender. I let these cook for, I don't know, 2.5 hours. I just left it simmering for a while until they're tender. The greens are really good. Now let's try the candied yams. It's good. It's perfectly sweet. It's not gonna give you a toothache sweet. It's good, but the spices, the ginger, the nutmeg. I'm so happy. So far, everything is great. Let's try the cornbread. It's not so great. It's dry. Don't make this cornbread. This is not great. We'll work on that. Catfish. Get my hot sauce. Ooh, this, you can see it's nice and tender on the inside. The outside is nice and golden. This is really good. The only thing is that it's cooled down a bit. When I first, took it out, you would have heard the crunch. But it's still very good catfish. Very, very good catfish. mac and cheese. Take a look at this mac and cheese. People rave about my mac and cheese. They love it. I love it. Have some. Have some. This is like the classic American baked mac and cheese. It's creamy. It holds together. Some people like their mac and cheese real loose and droopy, like real fluid. Even though it's baked mac and cheese, sometimes it's so fluid. I like my mac and cheese to hold together. I like my mac and cheese to have integrity. You see this? This is a backbone right here. It's good. Very good. I'm getting so full. Let me take a bite of this chicken. Ain't nobody gonna tell this chicken it's not brown. You brown. Let's see. You want some hot sauce? Okay. Did you hear that crunch? It's very good. Now for the cake. This is not as pretty as it could be. And I set my cake in the fridge just for a little bit, but I don't like fridge cake. I like my cake nice and room temperature, because that's when you get all those, all your flavors are nice and unlocked. Small slice. And your texture is at its best. You got your toasted pecans on top. If you're allergic to nuts, just leave them on. See that deep red? I already know how this is gonna taste. And this I've been making forever. I'm trying to get a nice big bite, but the cake is so tender that it falls apart. This is delicious. Some people think that red velvet cake is a red chocolate cake. It's not a red chocolate cake. It just has that hint of cocoa. See that little hint of cocoa? And the cream cheese frosting. It is so good. It's delicious. So, if you want a southern feast, everything I made today is bomb, except the cornbread. Ixnay on the cornbread. Well, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you stayed all the way to the end, I appreciate you. And hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.